My name is Maria Torres, and I was born and raised in Ciudad Juarez, and I came to the United States when I was 15. I currently live in Edgewater, and this is my apartment. I came to the United States when I was 15, and my parents and I came on tourist visas and overstayed, and so I am undocumented. I think that has been one of the reasons why I've been involved in community organizing and social justice advocacy. So I think it's a combination of things that brings people from different places. Part of it was when you think of a better life is both because of economics, so trying to find better jobs, but also safety. So Ciudad Juarez, while I was growing up, there was over 300 unsolved cases of women who had been kidnapped,
Are you serious?
raped,
I didn't know that.
and killed in the desert. There is a lot of research around the femicidios
Okay.
and las muertas de Juarez. So this happened in the 90s. I was born in 88. There is, while growing up, there is this sense of unsafety.
Okay.
Because I was a woman, and so my parents had two teenage daughters. I had turned in 14, so there was, part of it was my dad finding a better job so he could support his family, but part of it also was having better education opportunities and also the sense of safety. That, I remember there was this one time that in the news I saw how they found the bodies of 8 women just a couple streets from where I lived. I don't know how long they've been there, but it was in a fairly busy intersection. And so growing up always thinking, there's these commercials that said Ponte Viva. So like always walk.
Wake up, like be alert.
Stay alert, be alert.
Yeah, that's hard.
So like always knowing that you need to be protecting yourself because someone can attack you. So at that time to me it was normal, but as I grew older here in the United States, and even now that I'm more aware of violence against women, I think of how it was a lot of pressure on women to take care of ourselves instead of putting efforts in finding whoever was perpetrating these crimes and creating this environment of constant harassment and pain because women did not feel ever safe to go out and hang out, party, or work because a lot of these women were poor women and las maquiladoras.
Oh, okay.
So it was education. My parents wanted better education opportunities for us to go to college, and it was also finding better jobs to sustain our family financially and safety.
Big thing that I took from that, it is perspective. When you mentioned that sometimes in a society we sometimes think, oh well, that woman is wearing a short skirt, so it's her fault.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's happening. But I come to the realization by talking to my girlfriend, by my sisters, that we don't make the effort to change the man. Instead of we punish the woman for doing certain things. For you to bring that up, I think it's like a wake up call again, like to think, and it's like, why should it be our fault? When it's like, it's their fault with their issues and problems that are causing these issues. So it's pretty powerful that you bring that up.
Well, it is a culture of victim blaming and shaming.
Exactly.
Because it's not just men, it's also women who have internalized that oppression and believe that these things are to be true. Because you hear your friends like, look at her with that like skirt, or she's wearing too much makeup, or
it's true.
So it is a whole culture, and so part of it is teaching, unlearning what we have learned once we are aware of it, and holding each other accountable, because knowing this information is not enough when you're not calling people out. And
I've caught myself like, oh, look at that girl because of this, you know, and like you backtrack and it's like I'm feeding into that, you know, and it's so hard because we've grown up with that culture, but it's enlightening and it's you know, admirable that you bring that up just so we can continue to talk.
so we went to Carpentersville. It's a
Okay.
suburb of Chicago. It's about an hour northwest. And they told me we were coming to Chicago, so I was thinking skyline and pizza, and that's not what happened. So I went to this suburb. In Mexico, we used to wear uniforms. So it's interesting that you are designing this clothing line,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of how when I came here, it was part of it a culture shock of coming to school and not having to wear a uniform, and then trying to fit it into the fashion, right? And what everyone was wearing in high school, and not being able to afford it because, I mean, we came with nothing, and so we would go shopping at the thrift stores, and
We did too when you were younger.
so, and I mean, I don't have a very good sense of style, and I wasn't very concerned, I guess, to fit in high school. I care what I looked like, but it wasn't my top priority.
Yeah.
So one, I couldn't afford what other girls were wearing, and then two, I don't think I've ever had a good eye for fashion.
Okay.
In general, so that was kind of shocking, and it got some getting used to. I really wish so many times that we could wear uniforms, so we didn't have to think about.
Yeah, think about what you were gonna wear.
But I was focused in school. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to college. I was a sophomore in high school when I got here, so my focus was to learn English, to get involved in as many organizations as I could, so I could apply for scholarships, and it was laser focused. That's what I needed. That's what I wanted. When we think of social justice, a lot of it has to do with the fact that not everyone has the same access to opportunities, and so it all begins from your childhood. I had access to good education while I was in Mexico. I could read and write very well. And so when I came here, I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything, not even really take care of my siblings. My only priority, and according to my parents, my only responsibility was to go to school. So because that was my only priority, and because I always did fairly well in school, it was easier to fit in and to be supported by teachers who thought I took school more seriously because I didn't struggle. But I didn't struggle because I had a good background in education. I picked up English fairly quickly because I knew how to read and write Spanish, not because I tried harder than other people. And having a good support system from your teachers and from your parents, plus not struggling in school because you actually get the material, it's very important to have a good experience and continue to be laser focused. But when you don't have those things, you can't. And so I didn't have those struggles. I knew I wanted to go to school. That made me happy. I was good. It's not just so much about educating parents about child rearing, but more of addressing the trauma that we all carry. So access to mental health and resources to support parents. And also in our schools to understand what is affecting a child's learning. That sometimes if they're coming from households where the parents are not present because they're working 2 jobs, or they come from single parent households where there is not enough food, or there are kids that have to worry about where they're going to sleep the next day, that affects your learning. So part of it is like learning to be a parent, but also having the resources to get there and teachers to understand the students that they teach.
That makes sense. That's
So I told you right at the beginning I was undocumented. So I thought that if I was laser focused, I
Okay.
wasn't gonna struggle to go to college, though it's not true because I couldn't apply for any financial aid. So luckily my parents said, we don't have any money, but you don't have to worry about food or rent. We're gonna support you as much as we can, just go to school. So I had teachers and counselors that told me to apply for scholarships since I went to a community college and I was working and then going to school to pay for the community college. And it took me 3 years to get my associate's degree. Then I took 1 year off work and then that's when I applied to NIU.
well. First of all, congratulations for that, because that's a struggle. I think going to school and working, paying for your school, like that's something to be extremely proud of.
Yeah,
And congratulations, and
thank you.
seriously.
And I grew up in a very matriarchal family, so I was never afraid to say what I thought, and I was never punished for it.
Gotcha.
On the contrary, I was always expected to, if I did something, to give a reason why. And I was never punished for arguing when I didn't think that something was wrong. So all those things just led to me being argumentative with people and being open and
Gotcha.
challenging. Yeah, and so then I transferred to NIU and I was very fortunate to get a scholarship.
Nice, congratulations again. What did you study there?
So I graduated with, so I wanted to be a teacher, and when I transferred to NIU, they told me that I needed to get on a wait list to get my teaching cert.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't have money to pay for an extra year. So I gotta finish this in 2 years. And so I changed my major to psychology. So history and a minor in psychology.
Okay.
And I started talking to teachers about the teaching experience. I took classes about sociology classes where we talked about systemic oppression, racism. But a lot of those classes I think made me think like, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, if I want to be a teacher, I have to be a full-time teacher and then a full-time advocate to change these systemic issues that are keeping students from learning, that keep our schools underfunded, that keep our curriculum biased. And I learned about this major. It's called community leadership and civic engagement.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's what I major in.
Nice.
So I wanted to be, at that time, a person that could get not-for-profit organizations, the community, the government and businesses together. So serve as a liaison to have the best services for families. Something I forgot to say, which was like very important throughout the time that I was in school, is that I got involved with the DREAM Act movement when I was in high school.
Oh wow.
And so since I was in high school, I was involved already in social justice issues. And in a certain way had a support system, right, around fighting for your rights and the DREAM Act and immigrant rights advocacy that kept me really involved in those places.
Gotcha.
That helped me apply for this scholarship because I had all of these extracurricular activities and volunteering time. So then that's when I made the change of careers, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to work because I was still undocumented. And so I was scheduled to graduate in the spring of 2012, but I had one class left and didn't have money to take it over the summer. So I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to work, and I don't want to go back to washing dishes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want to do. And my parents and my community expect me to not do that. And because I remember working in factories and the women in the factories telling me, like, you're not going to stay here. You have to go and you have to go to school and finish. So it comes May of 2012 and I have one class left. So I said, like, just going to graduate in December.
Nice.
Because I don't have anything else to do. And so I started talking to my grandmother about going back to Mexico.
Really?
Thinking of how to validate my classes there, and she was researching information for me at some universities there. And in June of 2012, President Obama made the announcement for the executive action, the executive decision for the deferred action for childhood arrivals, which I benefited from and allowed me to apply for a work permit.
Wow. That's powerful.
So by the time I graduated, I had applied for a work permit, which I received in January. And since I
Nice.
had been volunteering, helping people apply for citizenship and other immigration benefits, I got a job at a not-for-profit helping people apply for immigration benefits. I was there for a year, and then I was helping people apply for DACA.
Okay.
I was helping people apply for legal permanent residency, for citizenship, or renewing their green cards. And then I started seeing case after case of people who couldn't apply, for example, to DACA because they were not in school, because they didn't have enough evidence to show that they had been here for the past 7 years or whatever, because they didn't have money to pay for the application, because 20 years ago they plead guilty to some conviction, so now they were not eligible to apply for citizenship, even though they had been in the United States for over 30 years. And I was like, this is so messed up. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, first of all, having papers doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be out of poverty.
Yeah.
And that you're going to automatically have access to education. Because I knew so many of my friends who had papers and they couldn't go to college because they couldn't apply for financial aid, because they didn't have enough scholarships, because they had to work, because they had children, for many reasons.
Yeah.
People who were a lot smarter than me. And then the people who I knew who worked really, really hard, they were still stuck in the same place because of this circle of poverty. And I think that made me realize I can't do this. Like, this is not the solution. And so that's when I knew to put a name to what I wanted to do, which was to be an organizer. And so I found out about this organization that is Community Renewal Society, and they were organizing churches around issues of race and economic justice, and they were primarily organizing Black churches and white churches in Chicago. And this was foreign to me, because I had always worked with immigrant rights organizations, and my only experience talking and speaking about racism and Black issues was while I was taking some classes in college, but I really didn't have that experience of being in that community.
Gotcha.
But they were working around issues of incarceration of people of color, around issues of education funding, around issues of community development, holding the government and developers accountable when they are building in certain communities of color. And so all these things, and then helping people pass legislation to allow people with records to get jobs, and closing prisons.
That's
and
awesome.
And a lot of those things were the things that I didn't see that we were talking about in my community, because I was so focused.
Narrowed
like,
in one.
if we only have a social security number, if we only have a way to get a path to legalization, And the problem is that it's not just that. There is a whole system that keeps people poor and keeps people oppressed, regardless of your citizenship status. And I went up to work there, and that was my first organizing job, and I was there for 2 years.
Nice.
And I learned to organize, and then I got a call and to come and work with Interfaith Worker Justice to work around issues with low wage workers, people like my parents, and I just needed to do that, you know. But I truly deeply believe that in order for us to talk about race issues, that we need to focus that on Black liberation and focusing on how is it that in our own communities, even in the Latino community, we have a lot of anti-Black racism. And my job there was really important, and I believe that the work that they're doing is important.
Gotcha.
And I believe that we need to organize, understanding that it needs to be through a lens of Black liberation and feminism. But to me, at the end of the day, my heart always takes me back to low-wage workers, Latino low-wage workers, because that's who I am. And that's maybe a very selfish way to look at it, but I cannot dictate where my heart takes me. And to me, being able to work in an organization that is working around issues of low-wage workers, with the experience and understanding, to a certain extent, not fully, of the racial component in poverty, is important, because now I can see how I can be of help to bridge that divide, and how I can be one of the people who help to create this Black and brown unity to address the social justice issues that affect our community. My favorite color, so it depends.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
So for my clothes, I like to wear Black because I'm always busy and I don't have a good sense of fashion. So whatever, it's just easier to buy stuff that's Black and blue jeans.
Okay.
If it's for my house, I like light colors, but I also like pops of like orange and red and blue or bright colors.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if I had a better sense in fashion, I would. I don't know if you know who Chimamanda Ngozi is. She's a Nigerian author. And every time I see her wearing something, she's feminist, and she wrote this amazing book and gave this amazing TED Talk, but she often talks about how important it is for her to still be feminine and wear whatever she feels comfortable with and happy with. And she has this amazing outfit full of color, and they're sexy and they're feminine, and they're also hers. And
powerful.
They're, yes, powerful. So when I see her and when I see her talk, when I read her books, and when I like, I want to be like her.
Awesome.
But I'm lazy and I don't have the money or the patience to go shopping for those clothes. I really love, and I always compare every novel that I read with Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Specifically, Love in the Time of Cholera. I read to read the poems of Pablo Neruda. I carry a little book with me, and I just read them in Spanish. When I'm stressed out, it makes me feel good. I like to read mostly fiction novels that are not too romantic, that have like this magical realism of Marquez, but also have some social discussion about it. Like Chimamanda Ngozi talks about feminism and empowerment and the politics of Nigeria. I've been reading lately Junot Diaz, The Wondrous Life. Yeah, he's a Dominican writer. But Gabriel Garcia Marquez,
Number one.
Pablo Neruda, and Chimamanda Ngozi.
I like it. If you had all the money in the entire world, you were a billionaire, what would be the one thing that you always wanted to buy yourself?
That's a hard question. The first thing that I would do is pay off my parents' mortgage.
Nice. like that.
And get them a retirement fund.
If you had to travel to one place, or if you not travel but live in one place of the world, where would it be and why?
Wherever my family is.
If you could say something to your 15-year-old self.
Oh, Jesus. But what I could say to my 15-year-old is pay more attention in class, get more financial education, to find the thing that gives you hope and hold on to it. I think that having a life without hope is really sad. So always finding something that gives you hope is one thing that can keep you dreaming of something better and hoping, expecting something better, and it also keeps you grounded. Because there's many ways in which you can hope. It can be through your family, it can be through your work, it can be through your community, but find that thing that gives you hope.